I think in terms of, you asked about the breakdown. I did finally remember the question. I see this as being a little bit strange, the whole LGBT area, because first of all, really the market is primarily the L and the G, and as much as that is what I would consider to be the same-sex market if we were to categorize it. And our experience has been very much that the lesbian and the gay market are two very different markets. And I think one of the things that the LGBT companies that we're talking to, or marketers that we're talking to, too many people have tried to group the propositions together and therefore are not serving either sector particularly well, or serving one very well and the other not so well. And that the B is really a combination of the first two, or at least a part of the first two. And the T, the transgender market, is a very different market altogether. That's sort of the anecdotal thing. But what was interesting to us, and really disappointing to me, is that when we launched the business and we put the press release out and we had articles in quite a number of publications, I would say that for the first few weeks, 100% of the responses we had were from the gay sector, not the lesbian sector. And that was something we couldn't figure out. As we've actually gone out to market, we have had some discussions with the lesbian business, and I have to say we have found some fantastic businesses in the lesbian space. And part of it to me is somebody that actually frankly knows more about the G than I do the L or the other components. It's like somebody from here doing business in China in a way that you have to find out what that market is looking for culturally or whatever, what is going to work in that market. But certainly a significant percentage of the business is a very high percentage fall into the gay category. Having said that, what I can say, just to upset all the guys in the audience from again, very anecdotally, the female-run businesses we found much better than the male-run businesses, just for the record.
I'm wondering if the B represents 50% of the market opportunity of the L and the G. I don't know, maybe half the time they'll buy and the gay market half the time. We have another question over there.
Sure. As Darren mentioned, I work in JP Morgan's social finance group, so it's really exciting to be here today. But to be honest, before Darren and I spoke, I hadn't really considered this space as a niche within the broader impact investing space. And as the panel has spoken to earlier tonight, the impact investing market is really, I think, at a tipping point as far as consciousness, and people are looking to partner. I mean, just last week I was at the Rockefeller Foundation because OPIC, the Overseas Private Investment Corporation, had gathered a bunch of who they considered leaders in the impact investing space, both on the GP and LP side. And I have to be honest, this space, the LGBT community, did not come up once as far as what is the definition of impact investing, what types of funds can apply. And so I'm curious, what are you guys doing to make sure that you have a seat at the table during such a crucial time in this industry?
That's a great question. Well, I think one barrier that we potentially face is the sort of stereotype that exists about the LGBT market, that we all are really rich with lots of disposable income, so the sort of pink pound, pink dollar phenomena. And yet the conversations within the impact investing space focuses much more on sort of base of the pyramid kind of philosophy. So right there, it's sort of a lot of education to sort of get over that. And I think when you really look at it, and I think we certainly found this in the research, that particularly in the emerging markets or so-called developing countries, LGBT is very closely linked with poverty issues. And so a lot of the best social enterprises that we found in emerging markets had this employment component or other economic empowerment component. So it was very much about creating economic opportunity for LGBT people that had been marginalized in some way. And so I think there we need to really get better about telling that story and bringing that to life. And it's not only in emerging markets, but I think there is really the emphasis there. Well, and I mean, I think that this might be the first or the second event ever about LGBT impact investing. So what are we doing? This is the beginning, and I certainly think we are very committed to getting this conversation going a lot further. So, you know, getting linked in to a lot of the networks and people who are talking about this and bringing the LGBT concept onto the table so that it's thought about just as environment or base of the pyramid or other issues that are very sort of typical in the impact investing space.
I could answer your question by saying what we're not doing, and that's actually sleeping. You know, we're running around, and it is, again, it's a relatively small operation trying to do so many things. It is just literally trying to get out as much as possible, get the message out, and you know, the opportunity to talk at something like this is great. And just trying to see as many people as possible. And the issue that we're facing, and it can be very frustrating, is that we haven't spoken to anybody who's actually said that's a silly idea. And pretty much everybody said, wow, that's something really interesting. But the problem, so the challenge for us is that there is not a specific box that this fits into. And I think you raised the point in your introduction that you had not really thought of this in context of LGBT and impact investing. And so we're building a box, and it is actually just getting out there and talking to as many people as we can, getting through the institutions and making the market.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that we're hearing is that some haven't thought about it, others who have thought about it, but there's no vehicle through which they can do it. So there's no offering for those that really want to do it. And so I think that's the other piece that we're trying to really create, so that there really is a viable investment opportunity for those who really want to do impact investing in this space. So I think it's a combination of the two.
And we're kind of doing something interesting in our own way. .gay is going to have to be approved in every single country. So we're going to have to go knock on a door, and they don't tell you who has to give you the letter of approval. So the other part is like, hi, we're here, Mr. Iran, and where exactly do we get approval for .gay? Which is probably the other reason why you didn't have a lot of folks in that particular meeting. But what we're going to be doing, what we're going to be really doing here is we are going to be going to countries who, as a country, are not supporting gay people. And when I say gay, I'm really using it as an umbrella for LGBT. We're trying to create an umbrella with the way this organization is working, but we're literally now working with chambers of commerce and boards of tourism in 70 countries through the International Gay Lesbian Travel Association to introduce them to their government council person who is usually coming out of the Department of Commerce. So we're actually linking them to even understand that they have gay dollars that they're throwing as a government into travel, tourism, and in some cases business. Yet their Department of Commerce probably doesn't even know about it. So it's enlightening a lot of people, and the other thing it's going to be doing is it's really going to be identifying countries who may be making outreach to the gay and lesbian community, but they're not going to allow .gay into their premises. So that'll be an interesting conundrum for a lot of people. And I didn't mention it before, so it's a point worth mentioning. Our model for .gay is that 67% of profits are going back to the community. We'll be creating a .gay foundation. So this is going to be another way for us to work on gay B2B and gay social causes through impact investing.
We'll wrap up with one last quick question.
My name is Rob Zhu, and I'm an MBA student at Stern. I'm from China, also lived in Japan, so I'm very curious about your work in Asia Pac. I was not aware of a sector catering for the LGBT community in China, also in Japan, not as much as in South Asia, we're more tourists. So can you tell me a little more about what type of businesses are emerging in Asia that's focusing on LGBT community, and also what type of measures you have taken to protect your Capital, for example, if you mentioned the social network media business, and what if the government shut down some of the websites? Yeah. So, and also your short-term, long-term perspective of the business.
Yes. I could get in big trouble for my answer to this question because I could talk all night on this particular point, but he's going to hit me in 2 minutes, so I'll keep the response short. As you know better than me, the China market is very different. Things are not necessarily as open or talked about as much as here in the US, but the community is there nonetheless. Based on our calculations and the statistics we did, if you assume that 7.5% in Greater China, there's probably about 90 million in the LGBT sector, which is a bigger population than any single European country. So it's a huge market. There is a huge focus on web-based businesses in China, largely driven by the different culture in that people are not necessarily so open. And to give an example that links the East and the West, I think is quite interesting, is if you go to a bar or a club in Hong Kong on a Saturday night, everybody will go out with their friends, but people don't tend to actually meet people in the venues. But if you looked around the bar, you will see everybody on their iPads actually talking to other people in the bar. It's a different culture and a different way. So a lot of the businesses that we're looking at are web-based businesses. We are working with one business, and I can't obviously give any names, but an awesome business that has Pan-Asian coverage. And they combine social networking with news. They're a huge supporter of HIV causes and education. And they're a particularly influential voice in the region. And that is the kind of business that we're interested in investing in because without doubt they have taken a leadership position in the region. People go there for information. And so the information and the educational work that they do supports the traffic that comes onto the website, which supports the business case for advertising and product promotion, but also that goes back then to supporting the community. So it's businesses like that focus on the market that we are interested in. And you raise a very good point, and I'm sorry I'm going on even longer than I should have done, about the political situation and the risk. And when we talk to companies about entering China, the answer we always give them is find a partner who knows how to do business in China, because that will significantly mitigate the risk of being closed down. And also, it is generally the more political stuff that will threaten a business than the LGBT stuff in China. So yes, a very interesting mix of businesses, some very specific issues, but without a doubt, the future and a massive opportunity. But the key point is to find people that actually know how to work in China, in that region, as you will know actually better.
Well, thank you all so much. I mean, this has been a really fascinating discussion. I'm so glad that JP Morgan and StartOut could host one of the first ever events on LGBT impact investing. I think our panel deserves a round of applause for... We do have some time now for sort of networking and socializing, so let's continue the dialogue in the other room with some beverages, and you'll have an opportunity to speak more with panelists and other members who are here, so please stay around for that, and thank you all so much for coming. It's been really great.